10 cheap items at Tractor Supply. But they are the things veterans always buy before everyone else sounds ordinary. But there is something very noteworthy. They never wait until they need it to buy. They always buy ahead. While most people walk past these items every day and think nothing about them until they need them and it is too late. But more importantly, in this list, there is one item that looks completely harmless. You might even be using it every day, but it is the thing that causes many people problems the fastest when things start to change. Not because they do not have it, but because they think they do not need to prepare for it. And that is the mistake. Experienced people do not buy more. They buy the right things before others realize their value. And the question for you is, are you overlooking the most important things just because they are too ordinary? 10 to 5-gallon bucket one day, you open your bag of rice and realize you have nothing left to eat. Not because you bought the wrong thing, not because the quality was bad, but because you stored it wrong from the very beginning. You cannot see it, but air, moisture, and insects are silently destroying everything inside. And when you find out, it is already too late. In reality, some people have tried storing rice for a long time and discovered something alarming. Even when sealed, larvae still appeared inside. That means the problem did not start when you stored it. It already existed from the moment you bought it. And if you do not have the right way to protect it, you are just waiting for the day you lose everything. People who have gone through crises understand this very well. They do not keep food in its original packaging. They do not believe in leave it for now and deal with it later, because they know when things last longer than expected, small mistakes turn into big losses. Instead, they use something very simple that most people walk past in Tractor Supply Company without noticing. A 5-gallon bucket with a tight lid. The price is not high at all. A bucket usually costs about $5 to $8, and a good sealing lid is around $8 to $12. In total, less than $20. But it can protect hundreds of dollars worth of food inside. This is the kind of small cost. But the consequence of not having it is very big. It may sound ordinary, but this is not just a bucket. This is the thing standing between you and having nothing left to eat. A sealed bucket can block what you cannot see, moisture, air, insects, but that destroy things the fastest. When used properly, rice, beans, flour can last for many months, even years, without going bad. But the real value of this bucket is not just in storing food. When things start to break down, an item no longer has just one use. When the water system stops working, it becomes an emergency water container. When you have nowhere to sit, it becomes a seat. When rain pours in, it protects important items, and in situations you do not want to think about, it can become something you are forced to use as a temporary sanitation solution. In addition, it can be used to transport items, mix water, soak food, or keep important things like medicine and documents from being damaged. A simple item, but it can replace many others when you have no other choice. That is how experienced people look at an item. Not what it is, but whether it can still be used when everything else stops working. And the most important thing is this bucket gives you time. Time to not panic, not have to run around looking for solutions, and still maintain control when others start to lose it. Because when a crisis happens, you do not get a chance to fix mistakes. You cannot go back to the store. You cannot replace what has already been ruined. You only have what you prepared beforehand. The right bucket can preserve your food, water, and stability for many days, many months, and that is why experienced veterans always buy this before everyone else. 9. Tarp. A heavy rain starts, and you hear water dripping from the ceiling. At first, it is just a few drops, but after a few minutes, you realize you cannot stop it. Water begins to spread, your belongings start getting wet, and the worst part is, you do not have time to fix it. And when you get wet, it is not just discomfort. You start losing heat, losing control, and everything around you begins to break down faster than you think. In situations like that, you do not need a perfect solution. You need something that works immediately. And that is why experienced people always have a tarp ready. At Tractor Supply Company, a tarp costs only about $10 to $25, depending on the size. Not expensive, no technology, not complicated. But it is the thing that can stop everything from getting worse in minutes. And here is the most important part. This is not just a piece of plastic. This is the thing standing between you and being wet, cold, and losing control. When it rains, it is a roof. When you have to stay outside, it is a shelter. When the wind is strong, it is a barrier that helps reduce damage. When water starts coming in, it is what protects your belongings. Not perfect, but enough to keep everything from collapsing. But like the bucket, the real value of a tarp is not in a single use. When situations get worse, one item has to do many things at once. A tarp can be used to drag heavy items, tie things down temporarily, block sunlight, create shade, or even collect rainwater when you no longer have a stable water source. Some people who have gone through major storms have said something very simple. The first thing they used to save their home was not a repair tool, but a tarp. Not pretty, not permanently durable, but enough to keep everything from getting worse at the most critical moment. In addition, in cold conditions, a tarp can also help retain heat temporarily if you know how to use it properly. It does not replace a heating system, but it can help you keep the little heat you have. And sometimes, that alone is enough. That is how experienced people look at an item. Not what it is, but whether it helps you hold on when everything starts to fall apart. And the most important thing is, this tarp gives you time. Time to not panic. Time to handle each problem one by one. And time to keep everything under control before the situation gets worse. Veterans understand this very clearly because they have lived through situations with no choices left when everything out there no longer provides cover. Do you have anything to protect yourself? 8. Rope/tie cord. You may have everything: food, water, tools, but just missing one small thing can make everything useless. And the paradox here is, it is not that you lack items, it is that you cannot keep them. A strong wind blows through. The tarp you set up starts coming loose. Your belongings shift. The things you prepared begin to lose control, not because you do not have them, but because you cannot secure them. And that is when you realize, you may have everything, but you cannot hold on to anything. People who have gone through crises do not wait until they need rope to look for it. They always have it ready because they know rope is not something used once. It is something you will use constantly. A simple spool of tie cord can be thousands of feet long, but costs only about $8 to $15. Cheap enough that many people overlook it. But it is the thing you will use the most when everything starts to fall apart. And here is the important part. Rope is not a secondary tool. It is the foundation of everything you set up. Without rope, you cannot set up a tarp. Without rope, you cannot secure your belongings. Without rope, everything starts falling apart. Rope is not just a tool, it is what keeps your system from collapsing. But its real value does not stop there. When the situation changes, a rope can become many different things. It can tie down a shelter, set up a tent, hang items up high to avoid moisture and insects, or become a clothesline when you need to dry your clothes. When you need to move things, you can use it to pull heavy objects without complex equipment. When temporary repairs are needed, it can hold everything together until you have a better solution. Some people have shared that in emergency situations, they did not lack food, did not lack water, but still ran into trouble just because they did not have enough rope to secure and organize everything. And that is when they realized a small item can become the biggest weakness if you overlook it. In addition, rope can also be used to divide space, mark areas, or support simple tasks in natural environments. It is not a specialized tool, but that is exactly why it is flexible. One spool of rope can solve dozens of different problems that you cannot predict in advance. The most important thing is, rope does not depend on electricity, does not require maintenance, and can be stored for many years and still be ready to use when needed. This is the kind of item you buy once, and it is always ready when everything else stops working. Because when a crisis happens, the problem is not what you have, but how much you can hold on to. When everything starts to fall into disorder, rope is no longer a secondary item. Veterans understand this very clearly, because they have seen everything collapse just because it could not be secured. And that is why they always buy rope before others. 7. Cast iron pan. There is something in an American kitchen that can last longer than the house itself. Not a machine, not modern equipment, just a cast iron pan. It sounds simple, but what surprises many people is there are cast iron pans that have been passed down through 2, even 3 generations and are still used every day. And while most modern kitchenware will break after a few years, this thing almost never dies. People who have gone through crises do not choose a pan for convenience. They choose it because it works, even when everything else stops working. A cast iron pan does not need electricity. It does not need a non-stick coating. It does not require complex maintenance. You can put it on a gas stove, a wood stove, or even directly over a fire. And it still does one thing right. It cooks food. The price is not a big issue either. A basic cast iron pan usually costs about $20 to $30. Not as cheap as disposable items, but not expensive either. And the difference is, you do not need to buy it again. While many people are used to replacing pans every few years, experienced people see it differently. They do not ask, "Is this convenient?" They ask, "Will this still work when everything else breaks?" And this is where the cast iron pan becomes different. It is not just a cooking tool. When needed, it can be used to boil water, retain heat, or cook simple meals from any heat source you have. It can handle impact. It does not warp easily, and if used properly, it almost never wears out over time. There is one interesting thing that few people notice. During long power outages, the problem is not whether you have food, but whether you have a way to cook it. And many people only realize that when they cannot use electric stoves, microwaves, or familiar appliances. In addition, a cast iron pan can hold heat for a very long time. That means you do not have to use too much fuel to keep cooking. Once it is hot, it retains enough heat for you to finish the job without needing much more energy. In situations where fuel is limited, this is a major advantage. Experienced people understand that in a crisis, you do not need the most modern thing. You need something that cannot be disabled. And a cast iron pan is one of the very few things like that. You may not use it every day. You may prefer more convenient options. But when everything stops, you will return to the simplest things. Veterans who have been in harsh environments understand that. You do not get a second chance to get it wrong, and the question at that moment is not whether you have food, but whether you have a way to cook it or not. 6. Oil lamp night falls faster than you think. Not the usual kind of darkness, but the kind you are not used to. No streetlights, no light from neighbors' houses, no background hum of electrical devices, only silence and darkness. In moments like that, you realize something simple. Light is not something guaranteed. It is something you are borrowing from the system. And when the system stops, you lose it too. Most people's first instinct is to look for a flashlight or a phone. But after a short time, the battery drains, the light dims, then goes out. And you are back to where you started, seeing nothing. The problem is not just that you cannot see. In complete darkness, you begin to lose orientation, move more slowly, and a small mistake can become dangerous. A misstep, an unseen obstacle. Everything becomes harder to control than you expect. Experienced people do not rely on batteries. They always have a source of light that does not depend on any system. Something simple, but works steadily in a way modern technology cannot. That is an oil lamp. An oil lamp does not impress at first glance. But when everything around you goes dark, it becomes the only thing keeping you from being swallowed by the darkness. A small flame, but enough for you to see, enough to move, enough to avoid unnecessary mistakes. The price is not high. A simple lamp usually costs about $10 to $20, and one container of fuel can last for many hours, even dozens of hours depending on how it is used. No charging, no batteries, just fuel, and you have light. But its real value is not just in lighting. When needed, you can use it to focus light on a small area for repairs, inspection, or working at night. In some situations, it can also serve as a signal to mark your position in the dark. And in enclosed spaces, it produces a small amount of heat. Not much, but enough to maintain a sense of stability. However, this is not a device you can just use without thought. You need to understand how to use it. The space must be well ventilated. Fuel must be stored properly. And most importantly, you need to test it beforehand. Not wait until you actually need it to learn how to use it. People with experience do not use oil lamps because they are convenient. They use them because they cannot be disabled when the power goes out, when batteries die, when everything else stops. You may not use it every day. You may forget you even have it. But one day, when darkness comes faster than you expect, you will understand why they always prepare ahead. And at that moment, the issue is not whether you have strong light, but whether you have enough light to avoid making mistakes. 5. Propane/fuel. You may have plenty of food, but if you cannot cook it, all of it is useless. That is not an assumption. That is reality when the power goes out. Electric stoves stop. Microwaves shut down completely. The things you use every day no longer work. And at that point, the issue is no longer what you have to eat, but whether you can use it. Most modern kitchens depend entirely on electricity. When the power is gone, everything stops immediately. Not slows down, but stops completely. Without fuel, all your plans are just theory. The solution is very simple. Propane. No electricity needed. No waiting. No charging. Just turn it on, and it works right away. But what makes propane one of the most valuable things is not convenience. It is stability. Propane almost does not degrade over time. You can buy it today, store it for years, and when needed, it still works like the first day. Not like gasoline, not like batteries, not like food. It does not expire, but your chance to prepare does. A small tank can cook dozens of meals, but that is only the obvious part. The real value lies in the things you do not think about. You can use propane to boil water, not just for drinking, but for cleaning, for safety, to reduce the risk of illness when the water source is no longer reliable. You can use it to quickly cook foods that are hard to eat raw, such as rice, beans, or dried goods. You can use it to retain heat in cold weather, enough to maintain stability in harsher conditions. In many situations, propane does not just help you eat, it helps you live more steadily. In addition, it helps you conserve resources. When you have a stable heat source, you do not need to burn other things. No need to look for temporary solutions. No need to waste energy on inefficient methods. It does not just provide energy, it helps you use energy the right way. And this is the point many people overlook. You do not lack supplies. You lack the ability to operate. You may have food, water, plans, but if you do not have the energy to turn them into action, you are still in a passive position. However, this is not something you can use carelessly. Propane must be used properly. The space must be ventilated. Do not use it in a completely enclosed environment. And you need to clearly understand how to operate it before you actually need it. People with experience do not store propane because it is convenient. They store it because it gives them control. When the power is out, when the system stops, when everything else no longer works, they can still continue. Because in the end, the issue is not how much food you have, but whether you can turn it into something usable. 4. Clean water/water filter. A thirsty person will drink anything that looks clean. And that is the most dangerous mistake. Dangerous water is not murky water. It is water that looks completely normal. No color, no smell, no signs. You look at it and believe it is fine, but you cannot see what truly matters. Bacteria, parasites, things that give no warning but are enough to break you down in a short time. You can go without food for a few days, but you cannot stop drinking. And that is why mistakes with water happen faster than anything else. Just one wrong drink is enough. Not immediately, but enough to make you lose strength, lose mobility, lose the ability to continue. In a crisis, that is everything. Many people try to store water, but water is heavy, runs out quickly, and you cannot carry enough. Sooner or later, you will still have to use water from outside. And at that moment, you have to decide in seconds. Drink or not. Some people have shared that after a storm, they continued using well water as usual because it looked very clear. Nothing seemed wrong. But after just a few days, the whole family started having digestive problems. Not because the water was dirty in the way they thought, but because of what they could not see. And from then on, they never guessed again. That is why a water filter becomes important. Not for convenience, but to eliminate guessing. A good filter gives you certainty. You do not need to look and guess, do not need to test, do not need to take risks. You process it, then use it. The cost is only about $20 to $40. But the real value is that you do not have to gamble with your health. In addition, it opens up options. You can use rainwater, stream water, sources you would have ignored before. Not perfect, but enough to keep going. However, this is not magic. Not all filters are the same. Not all water sources are completely safe, and if you use it wrong, the risk is still there. People with experience do not rely on instinct when it comes to water. They do not guess. They eliminate risk before drinking. Because when you are thirsty, you will drink. And when you drink, you do not get a chance to fix mistakes. This is what removes chance from the most important decision you make. 3. Medicine and medical supplies. You do not realize how important it is until you need it immediately. A small cut, a fever, a stomach ache, very normal things, until you cannot go out to buy medicine. No pharmacy, no doctor, no one to help you at that moment. And at that point, you do not need a lot. You need the right thing. A basic medical kit is not to treat everything. It is to handle small problems right away before they become big ones. A wound that is not cleaned can get infected. A fever that is not controlled can drain your strength very quickly. Prolonged pain can prevent you from doing anything else. Things that seem small, but are enough to stop you. Someone once said they did not think much about medicine until their child had a fever at night, and there was no way to go out. At that moment, they did not need an entire hospital. They just needed a few fever reducers. And from that point on, they always kept supplies ready. That is how experienced people think. They do not wait until there is a problem to find a solution. They prepare in advance, so they are not caught off guard. A basic medical kit does not need to be complex. Bandages to treat wounds, pain relievers and fever reducers to keep the body stable, digestive medicine for common issues, and a few other simple items, but enough for you to handle things in the early stage. The cost is not high, but its value is time. Time for you to control the situation. Time to prevent a small problem from becoming a bigger one. The key point: you do not need to cure it immediately. You need to keep it from getting worse. In addition, when you have these things ready, you do not panic. You know what you have. You know what you can do. And that alone is enough to help you maintain control. Of course, this is not a solution for everything. You still need to understand limits. You still need to know when to seek professional help. But in many situations, the first few hours are the most important. And if you have nothing in your hands, you are missing that critical window. This is what helps you handle problems before they get out of control. 2. Toilet paper and personal hygiene. Final version complete. There is something you will never think about until you no longer have it. And at that moment, you will realize it affects everything more than you think. Not food, not electricity, but personal hygiene. It may seem small, but after just a few days, you will start to feel it clearly. Discomfort, dirt, irritation. And it does not stop there. When you cannot maintain hygiene, everything begins to break down. Not just how it feels, but bacteria, irritation, small problems that do not go away. They build up, last longer, and slowly drain your energy. The worst part is, you cannot ignore it. You still have to live with that feeling every day. And the longer it lasts, the more you lose focus, lose patience, and start making worse decisions. In a crisis, that is a very dangerous chain reaction. Some people have shared that, after a few days without proper hygiene, they stopped caring about their plans. Not because they did not want to, but because they were no longer comfortable enough to think ahead. When your body is not okay, everything else stops. Toilet paper is only a small part. What matters more is the whole personal hygiene system. Wet wipes, soap, hand sanitizer. Very simple things, but they are the last layer of protection between you and unnecessary risks. A pack of wet wipes can replace water when you do not have enough. A bit of soap can prevent problems you cannot see. And all of these things are often overlooked because they are too ordinary, until you no longer have them. In addition, This is not just about being clean or dirty. This is about mental state. When you keep your body clean, you still feel in control of your life. When you cannot do that, everything starts to fall apart from the inside. You do not just lose comfort, you lose stability. The cost of these items is very low, but the cost of not having them is very high. Not in money, but in prolonged discomfort, in energy drained every day, in becoming weaker without realizing it. And in a crisis, you do not need anything else making you weaker. When everything starts to break down, can you keep yourself in a stable state? 1. Flashlight and backup batteries. A power outage is not scary until you need to see immediately. You are not preparing for light. You are preparing for the moment you cannot see anything. A sound in the house, something falling, a situation that needs to be handled right away in the dark. And you do not have time to wait. No time to search. No time to think. Your phone runs out of battery. Rechargeable lights start to dim. The things you thought would work begin to shut off. And at that point, the problem is not lack of light. It is that you do not have light the moment you need it. This is where many people are not prepared. They think having a light is enough. But no. In reality, you need something that works instantly without a second of delay. A flashlight is not a convenience device. It is a reflex. Press, and it is on. No startup time, no system dependency, no conditions required. A good flashlight does not just help you see, it helps you react. When you need to move in the dark, when you need to check your surroundings, when you need to handle an unexpected situation, you are not slowed down. And in those moments, even a 1-second delay can create a problem. But this is the part many people overlook. Batteries. You can have the best flashlight, but without batteries, it is meaningless. Light does not disappear because the flashlight breaks. It disappears because you no longer have the energy to sustain it. And that is a very common mistake. People buy the light, but do not prepare a way to use it long term. Batteries are small, cheap, easy to buy, but they determine how long you can use your light. Without backup batteries, you only have light for a very short time, and when it goes out, you are back to the starting point, seeing nothing. Without batteries, your light has limits. In addition, a flashlight is not just for lighting. It helps you maintain control. When you can see clearly, you are more confident. When you can see clearly, you make decisions faster. When you can see clearly, you avoid unnecessary mistakes. And in a crisis, avoiding mistakes is more important than being right. A good flashlight usually costs about $10 to $30. Backup batteries are even cheaper. But the value is not in the price. It is in not being blind in the moments when you need to see the most. And this is the most important point. You do not need light all day. You need light at the right time, the right moment, instantly, without delay. In high-pressure situations, you do not get a second chance. You do not get a chance to fix mistakes. If you cannot see, you cannot react. If you cannot react, you lose control. When you need light immediately, do you already have it in your hand? Or are you still thinking, I will prepare later? You do not need to prepare everything. No one can do that. But you can start with simple things. One item at a time, one step at a time. Not because you are afraid of what might happen, but because you want to be ready if it does. People with experience are not the most worried, they are the calmest because they know. They are prepared. You do not need to be perfect. You just need to not be unprepared. As long as you start today, You are already ahead of many people. Not tomorrow, not when you have time, but today. Because when things start happening, you will not have the chance to go back and prepare from the beginning. You only have what you have prepared and what you ignored. And if you think these items are important, then the next video will be even more practical. 12 types of food that smart preppers always buy first. Most people ignore them.